Okay, what's going on, guys? In this video, I'm going to be breaking down my trades of December so far. Entering the new year, there's a lot of mistakes that I need to take into consideration to have a successful 2025. So yeah, like with that, I'm just going to break down these trades as the one I started with today, and then go over the other six. Luckily, I've been 6 for 6, but in the month, but a lot of mistakes, bad entries, bad exits, but nonetheless still up. So yeah, with that, I'll just go over GTBP. This is the trade I took today. Um, so yeah, I mean, this was a hard one for me because the market, and I think it's better to analyze it on the time frame I used at the time, which is the 1 minute, which I never usually use. I usually use the two, three, or five on intraday. So yeah, the market opened first 5 minutes, took a pretty considerable drop going from 324 all the way to the 240s. I took my first entry on this um, volume bar, which I thought was showing signs of reversal. So it was really an early entry, and you can see there's a lot of buying pressure into this candle. 53 million, sorry, 53,000 buyers to the 71,000 sellers in this one candle at 9:32 a.m. So I took my first entry at the close of that candle at around 298 is where I got filled on the market order, which a big problem of mine lately has been taking market orders and not limit orders, getting in at the price you want rather than the price the market gives you. That's been the biggest um, selection for me is, or where I've lost the most money, is taking what the market's been giving me and not taking what I want from the market. Um, but that's the game, right? So yeah, with that, the market continued to trail off in the first few minutes, but I saw all this buying pressure. As you can clearly see, there's a lot of green versus red in these volume bars due to this criteria I developed in these volume bars. So this just lets me know who's winning the battle throughout the session on this 1 minute time frame. Um, so yeah, like I said, I entered at $2.98. It trailed off into the 240s. I saw a lot of positive sentiments into this play as it went on. Saw it made lower lows on an increase in volume. It did the same on the bigger time frame, clearly, because you get three candles in a row. And then, yeah, with that, if you just want to switch to the 5 minute, we can do it that way as well. We get a hammer candle making a new low, um, coming off of a candle that made a lot new low with a lot of selling pressure. So that right there was an indication that it was possibly going to reverse. We get a buying candle close above the open of that hammer, which is also another positive sentiment for me to continue to hold. And then not too long after that, it broke my entry and then spiked into the open. And that's where I took my first sell. I sold a bit early, or again, a market fill. So getting in at 298, and I think it was around 307 or in 309 is where the rest of my shares got filled. So not much of a gain there. And then as you can see, what usually happens after I sell is it goes into the 410 all the way into VWAP, breaking previous highs and then back into VWAP, like I said. So yeah, a lot of mistakes here on this trade. It went quick though, took profits quickly. Once I saw the spike, I sold into the strength, but just more strength came in. And yeah, I mean, if you were lucky enough to get this big chunk of the move, I think this ended up being from bottom to top on this play, 69%, which is just kind of ridiculous. And going from 9:50 a.m. lows to 10:20 highs a.m. So yeah, um, in just 30 minutes, it went 69%. But that's the power these kind of small cap stocks have been having lately. All right, another one I want to break down uh, earlier this month, I believe was on the 11th of the month, was VRAR. We just have to go back a few days to break down that trade. This was an ugly one too. Um, but I like the entry here. The entry was pretty good for what I was trying to do, keeping the risk very small. Let me just pop back to earlier in the month. And here we go. So yeah, not a ton of volume really in these candles themselves, but I like this pullback. And that's where I entered into the pullback at around 142. And this was at 10:55 a.m. I saw the spike in volume, and this is just quickly where I sold. So from 10:55 a.m. to 11:09 a.m. is where I sold the majority of my shares at 146, 147. So again, a small gain. And then you saw the pullback and it ripped all the way to the 170s. This has been kind of a theme for me lately. I sell too early, but I like how I keep my stop losses small and they have these small little spikes, and that's where I like to scalp. So can't take anything away from that because a win's a win. I like my entry. I kept the stop loss small around 1 penny risk, and I made 4 cents per share. So 4-to-1 ratio there. Could have made an extra 30 cents if I held longer into this strength. But again, it's the 1 minute charts that have been getting me the most and where I need to stay away from, and the market fills and sells on those buy orders as well. Um, Next play I'll have to break down is SPAI. Okay, with SPAI, I found myself in quite of a choppy situation. I saw a lot of potential for SPAI in the early pre-market. I liked the spike. It was up, you know, it didn't gap almost hardly ever by open, but it had a high of a 33% move in the pre-market. I should stay more to stocks that have a lot more volume than this one did on this situation in the pre-market. So yeah, the stock opened within the first 5 minutes. Again, under 5 minutes, I bought. Um, and I bought when it was green, which is something I never do. So yeah, a little FOMO play here. If you're missing out at 9:35 a.m., I took my first position at 3:54. I really didn't like how the volume just kind of diminished. I thought I was gonna see, and I think I took bigger size than I would have liked to on this play too, because I thought I was just gonna jump all the way to VWAP. Again, it's about keeping your risk really small, so I should have bought near low of day, risking 1 cent, 2, 3 cents at most. Um, so yeah, I took my first entry right here at 3:54, and then within the next few minutes, I sold as quickly as possible. Once I saw this decrease, I did like the gap, but sometimes on the 1 minute, gaps do fill. So having such a horrible entry and the gap being below my entry, I didn't want to see the price just shoot all the way to lower day and quickly be down on a size that I shouldn't have taken. So with that being said, on this candle right here is where I left and took my profits right away. So yeah, I made about a 2.8% gain and just walked away. Um, yeah, big mistake there. Don't buy when green, only buy on the pullback and near low of day as well. So yeah, with that, I'm just going to move on to the next one, which is AEMD, or sorry, the next one was AEMD. Yep. Okay, so this was a scary play for me just because I nearly bought at the top exactly. And I sold within less than 30 seconds of my entry just because I I shouldn't have been in the trade. It's so far away from the low of day. So yeah, just to restart and break this one down. Um, you can clearly see a little bit of a reversal here. It held this, it made higher lows and then broke VWAP, which is where I should have been entering in the first place because I was watching it. And I think I missed it after it broke through VWAP and I was like, oh, it's done. I turned my eye away from it. And then it just kind of ran. And I thought it was just going to keep going and going because that's been the theme for me lately. I kind of missed out on my low of day buying or buying near low of day. And then it spikes over the previous high of day, which was right at the open. And then yeah, chopped around a bit. And finally, right here is where I looked to take my first position. I got filled at a market order around 76 cents. And I thought that was the dumbest thing I've ever done trading and immediately sold when it popped on this increase in volume of buying pressure at 78, 76 cents. So 0.7876 is where I sold. So yeah, just to take a look at that, that percent gain from where I entered to where I sold is about 3.7% gain, which is just kind of ridiculous that I made it out with that because you can clearly see here it fell a total 41% right after that took place. Um, so yeah, where I usually try to enter is in this choppiness right here, and then so it it gaps up, takes this big crap in the morning, and then the reversal. And then I like to sell into VWAP previous highs, and then the rest is just extra. This, I don't know what I was thinking, and I'm just happy to never make this mistake ever again in my life because I know I won't ever do that. That is not my plan. That is not the plays I usually intend to take ever, and I'm just never want to think about it again either because that is not how I trade. So yeah, the next one, but yeah, that just goes to show you the kind of opportunities the small cap market has been giving us lately. Even when you make a mistake, if you have the experience and know when to scalp out and don't get greedy and immediately take profits when you see them, uh, you might make it out alive. So this was probably the greatest entry I've had in quite some time, following those two mistakes earlier in the month. So let's just break down at 9:25 is where I took my first entry. So that was at this price right here, 9:25 a.m. at 79 cents, 79.88 cents. So that is almost 88 cents. Sorry. So 0.7988 is where I took my first entry. And then I was risking the previous low of the pre-market. Oh, and that was about 1 to 2% risk. And what followed that, you can of course see it goes from 80 cents all the way to $1.50. And of course, I did not make that gain at all. I had a beautiful entry with a minimal risk, which is what I like to see in my progress throughout the month as I gain more confidence and wins. And that's sometimes all it takes. The more confidence you get, the better you settle into your plays. And yeah, I sold, of course, into this big strength entering the market at 9:30 within the first minute of the market. Yeah, so for my entry until when I sold, the position itself had about a 10% gain. But the overall move from the entry, it went 87%. So yeah, really kicking myself on that. You don't want to get too emotional. One second. You don't want to get too emotional on these plays. Fear of missing out, which I did earlier in the month because it was my first few trades that I've taken that entire month. In quite a few days. I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks from my last trade on those two just near wins. And yeah, for this one, I was starting to settle in a little bit better and took a much better entry. And I love that I sold into the strength because it's about buying the weakness, the dips, and selling into the spikes and the strength. Yeah, buy low, sell high, right? So yeah, buy weakness, sell strength. All right. So with that, it made some pretty crazy moves and then faded off the rest of the day. Even from where I entered, if you held that to the close, down 23%. So you got to be willing to scalp these plays as they go along. But a win's a win, and I'm happy with that progress right there, selling into the strength. All right, so the next one I want to go over is CADL. So another great play that I love to see is, I saw this big gap down, which I don't trade a lot of gap down, but there was just something about it that kind of just stood out to me. And it had big volume in the, the post market, yes, and the previous day. And then, it had some good movement in the pre-market, making from a low of the 630s all the way to the highs of 767. So it had a little bit of range to work with. And it was above those lows. It bounced off those lows. Um, but I didn't give it enough time to do so. So let me break this down. So it opened here at about 686, right in the first 1 minute candle of the day, coming all the way down to, at the time, a low of 638. So not a great move down. I mean, had the little reversal. I entered long right here, guys, at 9:39 a.m. And for the first position I took was around 647, so $6.47 per share. And then I saw this spike and I was like, oh, I don't want to miss out on the spiking of the VWAP. So let's sell immediately as it goes into the next candle. And so I sold, I thought I sold right here at the top, but it filled me right here at 652. So instead of selling at 658, it sold me at 652 for just a 0.87% gain, which I thought was kind of ridiculous considering the candle was sitting up here. So again, market buying and selling is not my friend. Yeah, it touches those lows of the pre-market and then reverses and then finally touches VWAP and then makes it to the, well, it almost makes it to the open of the day. Sometimes it's not perfect, doesn't make it all the way to the open of the day or previous highs, especially if the volume isn't there, which the volume clearly wasn't there early on. Then you can see as the day goes on, and I don't trade after 11 or 12 p.m. rather, but it did have a nice move and making higher highs into the previous higher day. Um, yeah, just like a tough trade overall. There was so many mistakes early in the month. This is, I believe, on December 13th. So another early month trade after not trading for 2 or 3 weeks. Um, but yeah, saw the reversal, liked it, bought the dip, loved that, risking low of day, risking 0.5% or less of risk. And, I tried to sell um, to a 4-to-1 or 5-to-1 ratio, but really just got filled at a 3 or 1.5-to-1 ratio. So don't love that. Um, but, winning is winning. And I had good intent behind that trade, trying to risk the low of day, which I really like that trade and entry overall. But again, market buying and selling, not my friend, and I will not look to do that again. So one more trade I believe I want to go over is